Good evening. The big political story on the show tonight is the return of Kashmiri Pandits, the latest flashpoint between the BJP and the PDP. That will be our big debate tonight. Also coming up at 9:30 tonight, Indra Jai Singh versus Townships Singh on what the Prime Minister meant when he disparaged five-star activists. What are five-star activists, Tavleen? What is the five-star a rating,
well,
or is it a reference to luxury? What is a five-star activist?
They fly in first class all over the world, and they live in luxury suites. And don't ask me to name them because you'll get into trouble as much as I will. But I have a list.
Our big political debate on the buck stops here tonight is the return of Kashmiri Pandits to Jammu and Kashmir, the latest flashpoint or potential flashpoint between the BJP and the PDP. Statements issued by the Home Ministry in Delhi and by the Mufti Muhammad Saeed government in Jammu and Kashmir were different on one crucial point. The Home Ministry press release spoke of Composite Townships for Kashmiri Pandits. Mufti Muhammad Saeed said in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly today that while there would be townships, these would not be for any one community. Any community, people of any faith were free to purchase land and build homes in these townships. Mufti Muhammad Saeed also went on record to say there could be no Israeli-type settlements as a way of bringing back the Pandits. So are we back to square one when it comes to the return of Pandits who have been living in enforced exile now for almost 2 decades? Let's introduce our panel this evening. Joining us on the program tonight from the BJP, its senior leader Nalin Kohli. From Srinagar, we are joined by journalist turned politician Zafar Mehraj of the PDP. Joining us from the National Conference, Tanveer Sadiq. Joining us from Jaipur today is Sushil Pandit, a Kashmiri Pandit in exile and well-known advertising executive. Also joining us from Jammu today is Anuradha Bhasin. She's the executive editor of the Kashmir Times. And with me in the studio, Dr. Shakti Bhan, well-known doctor, but also today on this program in her capacity as a leader of the Panoon Kashmir, which has been asking for a demarcated homeland for the Pandit community for several decades. I'll start with you, Nalin. We had Ram Madhav, who co-wrote the Common Minimum program with Haseeb Drabu, going on Twitter to basically underline what the dispute is. He acknowledged that the dispute is whether these townships should be exclusively for one community or whether they should be multicultural, multi-faith. Now, you had Mufti Muhammad Saeed today saying no Israel-type settlement. Is there a fundamental difference between the two parties? Why is the Home Ministry press release different from the Jammu and Kashmir government press release?
Well, there can be separate press releases and they don't need to be in sync with each other.
Why not?
Let's go back. No,
why not?
For what?
Why not?
Unless it's a joint press release. I think you've covered enough press conferences. You've covered enough press conferences and I've attended equally and drafted many. So I don't see that. We are all entitled to have our views. Let's go back to the top.
Yeah.
There is no dispute about the return of the Kashmiri Pandits back to their home. And that's the core.
Okay.
The matter of what a policy should be has to be formulated.
Yes.
No policy is specifically in place yet. Number 3, that whenever a policy comes, obviously that policy has to be in the interest of the state and specifically in the interest of those who have been displaced from their own homes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all people in the past haven't worked on a policy to bring the Kashmiri Pandits back with respect, security, dignity and honor.
Yes.
So therefore, they cannot create anything or create questions. If they have any suggestions to offer,
what is the party
if they have
position?
Suggestions to offer, they can give some.
Nalin, what is the party
The
position?
Bharatiya
What is the
Janata
BJP
Party has
position?
been unequivocal from day one. The state of Jammu and Kashmir, the government there also is unequivocal. And the government of India is also unequivocal.
No. What is
there
the BJP
has to be
position?
a solution of the Kashmiri Pandits returning back
I'm
to
asking
their
you this
homes
specific
with
issue.
dignity and honor.
Nalin, my question, and then I'll take it to Zafar Mehraj, is on this specific issue. Does the BJP support separate townships for Kashmiri Pandits as the Home Ministry press release suggested? Or do you agree with the PDP position or the Valley politics position, which is assimilated neighborhoods, that Pandits should come back but live with their Muslim brethren as they used to?
Well, Barkha, it could be both. It could also be new townships. When you look at a new township, we are talking of smart cities in the country, but there is nothing in terms of segregated townships. That concept doesn't exist in India. At least as yet, we've never had an example. But to have a new township in which people who may not have properties, whose properties may have been destroyed, if they are going to get a stake, maybe to a larger extent because many of them may not have properties, that does not mean that you are looking at it in the terms of a concept that runs elsewhere. These are matters of detail. Even before policy comes, people are criticizing it, politicizing it. They must have suggestions to give and they must contribute to the return of the Kashmiri Pandits instead of just doing politics. That's what they've done so far.
Let me get Zafar Miraj of the PDP, your partner in the J&K government. Zafar, shouldn't the valley-based parties be willing to overcompensate if it ensures the return of the Pandits? After all, if there is a township created on the outskirts of Srinagar and it is essentially inhabited only by Pandits, what is the problem? One has to understand why you're calling that a ghetto. What is the specific objection to it? If that enables anybody to return, so far under government schemes, one Pandit family has returned. One Pandit family. That is how abysmal it is, Zafar Miraj.
Barkha, as far as the separate townships exclusively meant for Kashmiri Pandits are concerned, is just not possible. And it will weaken or it will demolish the basic social and secular fabric of Jammu and Kashmir. Kashmiri Pandits, as we have been saying always, they are welcome to the Kashmir, they are welcome to the native places. We have lived together, we will live together. और मैं सिर्फ एक बात यहाँ पे ये कहूँगा कि हमारा रिश्ता खून का ही नहीं, दूध का भी है. तो I don't know where is the problem. As far as the press note issued by Union Home Minister is concerned, it never said that exclusive meant for townships, exclusive meant for Pandits. It says composite. Composite townships. This composite, what composite means? What composite means? All other persons can also reside there. All other persons can be there.
But Zafar,
you can't have an exclusive townships like that. You can't make it a Gaza.
Zafar bhai, it says, you brought up Gaza, we'll look at that. It says composite township for Kashmiri Pandits. So I found this a bit of an oxymoron in articulation. If it's a composite township, how is it a composite township for Kashmiri Pandits?
But it's not a legal document that you need to analyze every word.
This is not possible and this is not going to...
Yeah, Nalin is saying it's not a legal document.
But you need to analyze every word. I mean, it's not a legal document, it's a press release.
Okay, but let Zafar respond. Zafar.
It's a press release and I have gone through that press release. It is not for Kashmiri, exclusive for Kashmiri Pandits.
Okay.
A new township may be set up, a new township may be created, a composite township.
Yes.
And everybody of Jammu and Kashmir, whosoever he will be having a right to buy land there, settle there, live there.
Okay. Tanveer Sadiq, let me bring you in and then I want to bring in the Pandit voices also into this program. Tanveer, the National Conference failed to bring Pandits back. Would you support this proposal of composite townships? It's not clear to me still, because what I'm trying to understand is, will a Kashmiri Muslim who already has a home in the valley sell his home and go and live in this new township? Will it not end up being de facto?
But there may be homeless people who may be living on rent. That's also an equally possible thing.
Okay, fair enough. Nalin, fair enough. Tanveer?
See, first of all, first of all, the BJP and PDP is so confused. It can't be just like that the Chief Minister goes to Delhi, meets the Home Minister. And I'm really amazed with what Mr. Nalin Kohli is saying, that there could be two press releases. It's the Chief Minister and the Home Minister of India meeting. There can never be two press releases for that. The Chief Minister comes and says he assures the Home Minister about the composite township, and then suddenly today he does a U-turn and says no, he means something else. It can't be just a coincidence that Rajnath Singh goes to Israel in November and suddenly all this happens. This is an RSS agenda. Let's agree to the fact.
Ravish.
Now you cannot
Ravish.
see, if you're talking about Kashmiriyat includes people from Kashmiri Pandits, Muslims, everywhere.
Yes.
You cannot segregate them. You know, you have the Kashmiri Pandits have to assimilate into the majority community.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the CRPF or the police cannot protect them. It is the erstwhile neighbors who have to protect them.
Nalin,
so you cannot
I heard you say, I heard Nalin say rubbish, so I'll allow him a quick rebuttal and then Sushil Pandit.
I mean, calling it an RSS agenda.
That's what the BJP can always say.
Let me finish my point, sir, then please respond. I mean, the RSS is not in Government of India. The RSS is a social organization to look at this whole thing always that there is an RSS agenda can only come from a warped mind that doesn't understand
BJP
governance. Let me finish, sir. Why are you getting so excited? Let me finish my point, sir. Did I interrupt you? Or why you were just talking about Kashmiri and you don't have the decency also to listen to a counter viewpoint? I heard your viewpoint. I mean, this is just not done. I heard your viewpoint very carefully. Every word I had it. Now I'm going to respond. And you're talking of, assimilating society. Look at the example that we have on TV. We have an example here that can't even listen to another colleague on the panel. Just look at the excitement. Just look at the excitement that you can't even hear another viewpoint.
Politicians appear to have forgotten. You
for example.
Guys,
let me put another thing on the record.
1 minute.
Let me put another thing on the record, Barkha.
This is a really serious conversation. It involves real people.
So I want to finish
Please,
my
this is not about petty politics. It involves real people.
And I hope you will convey that to the NC spokesperson.
And let's hear each other.
I heard it carefully.
Let's hear each other. Nalin, quickly make your point. Tanveer, you'll get a chance to rebut. Now, Nalin, please be brief. Make your point.
I will be brief if I'm not interrupted.
Okay, be brief.
So let me go back to the top of it.
Yes.
The first point is that is the Union Home Ministry. Yes. It's not the same as the government of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes. Unless the NC spokesperson believes they are one and the same thing.
But
and that is really what federalism is. It's not the constitutional framework.
But there should be some
Second, both of them are common in their agenda of saying that yes, we require a solution. So much good talk about the composite culture of Jammu and Kashmir, Kashmiriyat. What did the NC do? Were they sleeping the sleep of Kumbharan? And only a family-based politics can simply say like the NC without having a national perspective that you can have two national perspective that you cannot have two press releases by two organizations.
If you want to talk about Kashmiri Pandits, talk about how it is possible. How it is possible.
Well, if you have a suggestion, you should have implemented it. This is what the government of Jammu and Kashmir and the central government will do with all stakeholders who matter.
I am going to bring in. We are all speaking on behalf of Pandits. Let's hear from them in their own words. Sushil Pandit, go ahead. What do you make of this latest dispute in J&K?
Yes, you need to rescue this discussion from pure semantics and platitudes.
Yes.
I mean, please put an end to this hypocrisy. We are talking about lakhs of people moving back to their homes.
Yes.
And you can deal with Article 370, AFSPA, talks with Pakistan, talks with Hurriyat into semantics and confuse people. But when it involves lakhs of people going back home, please be clear and don't say on one hand this and the other hand that. You have to be absolutely clear. Number one. Number two, it doesn't lie in the mouth of those who drove us out to tell us how we will come back, where will we come back, when will we come back, in what terms and what conditions we will come back. It is a mockery. If our murderers, if the rapists, if the terrorists begin to dictate terms on the matter of coming back.
But Sushil, how do we move forward from history? Sushil, at some point, life has to move on from the past.
Yes, it has
and there are many open wounds in Jammu and Kashmir on all sides, as you know, as I know, as all of us know. My question simply to you is, come back on this township point. Why do you want to go back? Would you want to go back and live in ghettos? Or would you want to go back and live in an assimilated form in the home that is as much yours as it is of your Muslim neighbor?
I agree with you. When we were living in Kashmir, despite being a minority in single digits, we were never in ghettos.
Yes.
We even lived in the minority of one house in the neighborhood of hundreds of Muslims.
Yes.
We were in every village, every mohalla, every city, every district.
Yes.
And we lived like that for centuries. We endured the living of the kind we were living. But when we were turned out, you must know we were murdered and raped. Our properties were encroached upon. Our temples were desecrated. Our neighborhood mosques chased us out in fear. Now there is a huge trust deficit. We want to go back, but not to come out again in a generation or two.
So do you support a separate township? Sushil, I want to get Dr. Shakti Bhanan, so be brief. Do you support a separate township?
Yes.
Separate?
Yes,
just for Pandits?
I need
just for Pandits?
Just a sec. Just a sec. Yes, I need my entire community to live together in order to get a sense of security. Yes, I need them to live together in order to create a viable community. Yes, I want them to live together in order to create a semblance of economy within themselves.
Okay. Now, you made a number of points, and I can see lots of hands going up. But first, Dr. Shakti Bhan, I just want to get the Pandit perspective on this program. It's very important because we have a tendency to talk on behalf of communities. Dr. Shakti Bhan, as somebody who's been with the Panul Kashmir, a decade ago, I interviewed you, and a decade ago, usse bhi zyada shayad ho gaya, you told me that we want a demarcated homeland, but not only for Pandits. People of any faith can live in that homeland, right? Now, my question to you today is, do you really, जब वापस जाने की बात आती है, do you really need it to be separate? Do you not want to go back and live with people as you used to?
No, we don't want to live with the people as we used to. We first want that there should be reorganization of J&K state.
But that's that is unlikely to happen under any government, BJP
then
or
Kashmiri
Congress.
Pandit doesn't go back. If that doesn't happen, then Kashmiri Pandit doesn't go. I will tell you why.
Why not?
Why? Because unless we live together and unless it is a, you see, if you know the Margdarshan, what we are talking about, that is what I am saying. That we want to live in a place where all of us are there and where Constitution of India will play in letter and spirit.
Muslims. That includes Kashmiri Muslims,
yes, I am saying yes, but it has to be a union territory. We have to have a political dispensation there. We are not going to live there under the PDP rule. All this is all bullshit. This is just that they don't want Kashmiri Pandits back and they are playing. This is just a time they are wasting and playing and trying to create.
So
we will not go there.
So very deeply cynical, disillusioned responses from the Pandit community. Before I take it back to the politicians.
For a good reason, Bharkha. For a very good reason.
Okay, Sushil, I'm just saying that it kind of underlines how difficult this is to take forward in a way that's going to work.
Do you imagine us?
Barkha,
do you imagine us going back?
I'll give you an example.
Just a
I'll give you an example. I spoke to a friend of mine. I spoke to a friend of mine from the Jagti camp in the morning. Out of way, I just asked him, I said, would you want to come to Kashmir and live in a separate ghetto? He said, how does it make a difference to me? Because I live in a camp here. Why do I want to go to Kashmir and live in another camp? How would that serve the purpose?
One of you can respond. Okay. One of you has to respond. So, Shakti Bhan, you respond and then Anuradha Bhasin has to come.
I lived in Sonwar and there was a house. Now listen to me. Mine was the only house in that area, Sonwar. I was living and there were 3 blasts in my house. And this was being done on 15th of August, 1991 and 92. And then you want me to go and live there only? But amongst all of them, it is not possible.
Okay. I understand this is very difficult to talk about, but we have to try and be calm.
20,000 Kashmiri Pandits still living there.
Now, I will tell you, they are compromised. They are compromised there under the rule.
Dr. Bhan, Tanveer Sadiq, I'm requesting you. I know how difficult this is, but we have to try and be calm. 1 minute. Anuradha, Tanveer, you're all speaking together. 1 minute. Tanveer, please. Tanveer, I'll give all the politicians a chance to speak. Anuradha, quick comment. Anuradha, go ahead. Anuradha.
Look, one thing, I mean, there is no doubt that Kashmiri Pandits, the return of Kashmiri Pandits to the valley is very crucial. It's one of the important elements of the conflict resolution.
Yes.
And it has to happen. It has not happened for the last 2 decades, and that has made the situation much more complex.
Okay.
Now, I do not agree that you have 2 Kashmiri Pandits in this panel.
Yes.
But I believe, and I have been interacting with a lot of Pandits, I do not believe that all Pandits have the same kind of narrative and same kind of opinion about the return of Kashmiri Pandits to the valley. There are a lot of Pandits also who have objected to segregated colonies and ghettoization of the Pandits returning to the valley because it does not make much sense. A, they are not interacting with the others. B, it makes them much more vulnerable to attacks. C, it increases the trust deficit between the 2 communities.
Yes.
Now, if we are working on the trust deficit, there to reduce the trust deficit, what is important is to facilitate interactions between the 2 communities. Yes. And that is where the spade work should begin.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable point, and I want to take it back to the politicians, and we'll come back to all of you. Please, let's keep our tempers in check. Let's keep our tempers in check. This is a really important conversation. Okay, Sushil, one sentence, and then please, Nalin has to speak after that. Sushil, one sentence. Sushil?
Yes. Yeah. I'm only asking, basic question that haunts every Kashmiri Pandit is that am I going to go back and become a hostage, become a sitting duck, soft target to terrorists who can kill me at will, rape me and desecrate my temple at will? I don't want to live in that condition anymore.
But you know, I will tell you, Sushil,
if there is a trust deficit, there is a trust deficit.
Okay, now I'm trying to speak and I get to speak. 1 minute. Tanveer, please listen to me. I have also met, and we need to tell those stories also. I have also met families in Haba Kadal, Muslim families who are safeguarding the homes of their Pandit brothers decades after. वो घर वैसे का वैसे खाली पड़ा है और वो एक चाबी लेके मुझे एक आदमी मिला, he said ये मेरी अमानत है. So we need to also tell stories of humanity. We need to also remember humanity. We need to remember humanity.
I do.
Okay.
I do. But none of it. None of it helped when we had to run.
Okay.
None of this good neighborliness helped when we had to run.
Okay, there is a vast difference from what it was in 90s. There is a vast difference from what it was in 90s to what it is in 2015. Don't forget, even the majority committee, Muslims were killed. Okay. Even Muslims were dragged out. Okay. But the situation is changed. Okay. You cannot blame the whole community just because some people out of this community did something wrong.
I want to bring back...
Now, I don't see any Kashmiri objecting to the return of Kashmiri Pandits. You need to take them on board and ensure that Kashmiri Pandits
it's very important. It's very important we hear from the BJP and PDP.
But don't forget, the same chief minister was the home minister that time.
Now
it is the same home minister. Now, see that it's just not a coincidence. It's a trend. The home minister that time is the chief minister right now. Okay. And Jagmohan was from BJP that time.
Okay, you're making, that's a very grave allegation to make.
Something
that's a very grave allegation to make, and we must give the BJP and PDP a chance to respond. Nalin, I'll start with you, then Zafar. The suggestion being that historically, the moment when the enforced exodus happened, there was a BJP person at the helm there in the form of Jagmohan, and Mufti Muhammad Saeed was Home Minister in the union government here. Please
and respond. The union government was
now
supported by BJP.
I must hear from Nalin. Nalin, go ahead.
And of course, the National Conference has blissfully done everything perfectly, and that's why the people have ejected them from power. So, I mean, let's stop getting into such small and narrow political...
You have also tasted...
Well, I mean, Mr. Tanveer, actually, honestly, it's difficult to have a conversation because Mr. Tanveer likes to speak.
One at a time.
So, why did you let him speak what he wants and bring me in when I'm asked to without being interrupted?
Nalin, now please, we'll hear you without interruption. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's go anyway. Beyond the brownie points and actually the political, let's get back to the crux of it.
Yes.
There is a humanitarian issue.
Yes.
And that's the core of it.
Yes.
I said right at the beginning, we require it to be done with dignity, honor, respect, security. There has to be an element that brings about reconciliation also. Every government is responsible for the welfare of all its citizens.
Yes.
Not any one particular one, all.
Yes.
And working for it.
Yes.
But because 2.5 decades has passed and it's long and painful, there has to be a time-bound positive movement.
But you don't agree with your partner. But Nalin, you don't agree with the PDP.
Just let me finish.
You don't agree with the PDP on how to solve this.
Barkha, let me finish your point. The beginning of it was that there has to be a government. So if I take it from the three things of Insariyat, Kashmiriyat and Jamhuriyat, the famous things, the Jamhuriyat is in place.
Okay.
There's an elected government.
Okay.
Insaniyat nobody can fight on.
Okay.
And Kashmiriyat has a composite framework. Who's going to argue with that? Now coming to the details, can we please have the patience to wait how it takes a shape? We need to arrive at something sooner than later. That it can be done will obviously be done because the most complex solutions also have
Zafar has been waiting to speak for a long time. Zafar, go ahead. Zafar, what does Mufti Muhammad Saeed mean when he says no Israel type settlements? What does the Chief Minister mean by this statement, Mufti Zafar Saab?
You don't need to qualify this. If you set up separate fortified colonies for Kashmiri Pandits, you know it's the Gaza settlement in Kashmir. And number one. Number two, we know Kashmiri Pandits had to suffer. There was some problem here. Yes, I agree. But We don't have to stick to that problem only now. We have to move forward. We have to move forward.
Yes.
If we want to move forward, then we have to think about the atmosphere has to be created, conditions have to be made in which all our Kashmiri Pandits, whosoever wants to come, they come and live like brothers and sisters here.
Yes.
But one thing I'll tell you, you can't dictate terms. You can't dictate terms. You can't put any conditions for your return.
But Zafar Miraj, anyone will want a basic condition of security, or a reasonable guarantee of security is a condition that any human being will want, Zafar.
So we are also human beings. We are living in the atmosphere in which we are living. They will live in that atmosphere.
Okay, that's a fair point. That you also have no guarantees. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Tanveer, 20 seconds to you, and then I have to start taking last comments. Tanveer, your response?
See, first of all, just one point. Nalin spoke about Kashmiriyat. Kashmiriyat is never complete till Kashmiri Pandits are not assimilated with the majority community. Then there will be a separate settlement. As far as Zafar is concerned, he's chief minister. He speaks one thing in the secretariat, in the assembly. He speaks another language in Delhi. Now, leaving the whole politics aside, you need to understand, a gun-toting security man cannot protect a Kashmiri Pandit. He can, if we need to get them with dignity and honor, he has to be protected by the community. And I think that is the only way out.
Now, politicians, you have spoken. Sushil Pandit, you're going on saying assimilated as if that's a bad word. I think what the politicians are trying to say, you used to live together. It's meaningless to go back home if you can't live as you used to. And please respond to Zafar's point that absolute security is not a guarantee for any Kashmiri, anybody in J&K. It's not a guarantee for the Kashmiri Muslim either. Sushil?
Yes, but the point is, my erstwhile neighbors cannot demand trust from me. They have to earn it from me, especially after what they have done to me.
So what's the solution?
Until such time they haven't earned it from me, you cannot force me to live in that neighborhood.
Sushil, solution kya hai? If we do not move forward from history, how do we move?
Solution is that we go back there as one community, start living there. If we interact and we find each other trustworthy, palatable, we move on, move ahead and see more integration.
Okay. Anuradha,
it is creating another Jagti camp in Kashmir.
I have to take last comments from all of you.
You cannot force.
Okay, I have to take last comments. Anuradha.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing about, Kashmiri Pandits, sometimes some of the Kashmiri Pandits who feel that they are the only victims and they are the only sufferers. Of course, they have been the sufferers, but they are not the only sufferers. The entire Kashmir Valley has suffered. A lot of areas of Jammu and Kashmir have suffered. Now, no, please let me speak. Now, the thing is, if you start your discussion from branding the entire population of Kashmir Valley, the entire Muslims there as people who were hand in glove with militant organizations, I don't see how a trust deficit can be reduced.
I'm only saying that when
please let me speak and do not interrupt.
The other 90% were helpless.
Okay,
I cannot talk like this.
But helpless, you should not mistrust those who are helpless. I think that's the point that Anuradha is making. Anuradha, please.
At that time, the whole
Kashmir,
We're
out of time. We're out of time. Anuradha, 20 seconds, then Shakti Bhan. Please, then last comments from the politicians.
One little comment.
Yes.
One little comment.
Yes.
That, it is always in situations where there is a trust deficit or where there is communal polarization, the onus is always on the majority community.
Yes.
The greater onus is on the majority community. But we also need to realize that Kashmir is an area where the majority community is extremely powerless. There is excessive militarization in the valley. The people, it's completely shattered the society. There has been a lot of violence, which they have been suffering for long years.
If there is militarization, there is also
the
militancy.
effort has to be made.
There is militarization and there is militancy. We must address the twin truths. Okay, 30 seconds to everybody. Shakti Bhan, 30 seconds, please.
I just want to tell the politicians and everybody, you are talking about a Hindu Kashmiri Pandit community, but have you taken them into confidence? Everybody is talking about Kashmiri Pandits going back without asking them what do you want. Have they taken our leaders into confidence? Have they talked to them? They are making plans. Have they asked them? Have they asked the leaders of Kashmir what do you want? And just you are doing for everybody and without asking them what they are doing.
I'm so
it's
sorry,
not
but I'm out of time.
acceptable. This is not acceptable to the community.
15 seconds.
Even if it is BJP or it is PDP, if our leaders are not taken into confidence before you make plans for Kashmiri Pandits, we are not going to go back.
Okay, Nalin Kohli, please.
I have just 2 sentences to make. The first sentence is that we need to bear in mind that we need to finally find a solution that brings peace, prosperity to every Kashmiri, irrespective of religion and region. We have to, and that's the critical thing of the government of Kashmir, which is a coalition government, the government of India, and all stakeholders. Second is to immediately jump the gun and believe a policy has come in place. That's premature. The beginning has to be made, but it also has to be time-bound, and that's what I think is being spoken, whether by the Union Home Ministry or whether by the government of Jammu and Kashmir.
They are asking the people who have to go. Again, they will not ask the people who have to go. They will make everything without asking the people who have to go.
I just want to say, somebody who has reported on Jammu and Kashmir for all of my 2 decades in journalism, there is suffering all around, and there are shadows of violence on virtually every life, and therefore we have to find a way to restore justice and dignity across the state in equal measure with compassion without politics. We leave it there. Anuradha Bhasin, Dr. Shakti Bhan, Sushil Pandit, Zafar Miraj, Tanveer Sadiq and Nalin Kohli, thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here. We'll be taking a quick break. On the other side, Indra Jai Singh, former Additional Solicitor General, is asking the Prime Minister to explain what exactly he meant by 5-star activists. We'll be joined by her and Tavleen Singh as they debate what the Prime Minister was trying to say and about whom. You're watching the Buck Stops here. Time now for our other big political debate on the program tonight. The Prime Minister's comments cautioning the judiciary to beware of what he called 5-star activists has provoked a fierce public debate. Today, former Additional Solicitor General and well-known lawyer Indra Jai Singh went on record in the Indian Express to virtually accuse the Prime Minister of trying to intimidate the judiciary. She also asked the Prime Minister to clarify whom he was referring to when he used the phrase 5-star activists, mentioning in that article that name-calling was no solution. Mr. Modi's supporters and other commentators have hit back and in fact agreed with the comments, making the argument that several sections of civil society have for long been biased against Narendra Modi and the BJP. Joining us now to explore in a little bit more of complexity is Indra Jai Singh herself and of course Tavleen Singh, well-known author and columnist. Indra Jai Singh, let me start by asking you that when you say in this article in the Indian Express that the Prime Minister was trying to intimidate the judiciary, that this was name-calling, do you in some ways confirm the critics of people like yourselves who will say that you have made an elaborate overstatement in what was perhaps just a sarcastic remark?
Look, Barkha, it doesn't behove the Prime Minister of a country to make a sarcastic remark on a solemn occasion. He was, at the end of the day, addressing a conference of Chief Justices from all over the country. It was a solemn event. It's not an event which occurs every day. And one expects him to make a speech of some substance, where he's unfolding a vision for what he thinks is the way forward for the people of this country, for law and justice, for social justice. But ma'am, did you not think that the speech was substantive? You're actually focusing on one sentence or 3 words in it, 5-star activist. That doesn't necessarily detract away from the substance of his speech. You know, Barkha, it's possible to make a speech and just throw in an agenda that you want people to kind of get, you know. And that's why I am insisting that he was, I can understand if he was addressing a group of activists or he was addressing a group of, you know, civil society or whatever. He was addressing chief justices. So where was the need to throw that in except to say, look, don't listen to these activists. I mean, 5-star, by the way, one doesn't know what he means by that. And, you know, this kind of hit and run method, you call someone a 5-star activist and then you disappear without explaining what you mean by it. I'm sorry, but it doesn't behove a Prime Minister.
Okay, let me bring in Tavleen Singh at this point. Tavleen, do you think that Indira's argument has some merit, that where the Prime Minister was speaking was not a political occasion? That if there is to be a political barb, and he has every right because he's also a politician, not just the Prime Minister, to his political positions, then addressing the Chief Justices was not the moment for that. How do you read the Prime Minister's comment on 5-star activists?
Okay, for a start, I totally disagree with Ms. Indra Jai Singh that this was not a substantive speech. I actually tweeted that it was a powerful speech because it's the first time in a long time that I've heard a Prime Minister talk about the need for improvement in our judiciary. We have cases of murder that go on for 20 years and there's been no improvement. And he talked about the need to get rid of laws that made it difficult for the justice system to work better. Now, on the 5-star thing, out of a speech, a very long speech, there was one paragraph. And, frankly, I am totally in agreement with him because I have seen ideologically motivated NGOs, mostly left-wing NGOs, and as you know, I don't really like the left-wing, and they have sort of they've taken cases to court, PILs, etc., and created the sort of atmosphere in which justice or judges, you know, may have been influenced, and I think that's what he meant. And, you know, on the environment, on even the coal thing, Barkha.
Yeah. But
frankly, you know, they cancelled coal, agreements that go back to 1993. Do you know how many people lost their jobs? And this was because of the atmosphere created by these 5-star activists.
What are 5-star activists, Tavleen? What is the 5-star a rating,
well,
or is it a reference to luxury? What is a 5-star activist?
They fly in first class all over the world, and they live in luxury suites, and don't ask me to name them because you'll get into trouble as much as I will. But I have a list.
No, don't worry, I'm not scared of trouble. I've seen enough coming my way and I'll deal with whatever comes next. But Indra Jai Singh, are you not being alarmist? You have every right to be offended at the swipe. But are you not being alarmist? Are you not overstating the fact when you say this is tantamount to trying to intimidate the judiciary? I mean, here is where a number of your critics will say, Indira, you've lost a sense of proportion in your objection.
Okay. See, Barkha, first let me just make a comment on what Tavleen said. You know, I find that the Prime Minister, when he speaks, is still in campaign mode, the mode that he was in before, when he was electioneering, before he became a Prime Minister. When I said what I said, what I'm actually saying is that we expect him to behave like the Prime Minister of a country, not as a campaigner, as a statesman, as a statesperson. So that's as far as his style is concerned. Now, on your question, am I being alarmist? Look, my concern is with the Constitution of India. And there are 3 organs of state, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. And I believe that all 3 must pay equal respect to each other. And when I raise the alarm, I do raise an alarm because I am indeed alarmed. You cannot be so disrespectful in your speech to a co-equal organ of state. Now, I know Tavleen is right, actually, when she says that there are a lot of things wrong with the judiciary as well, in the sense of the delays in the settlement of any cases, in the backlog that we see. But that's a different order of problem. It's not the same thing as saying that the Supreme Court is succumbing to pressures from quote-unquote five-star activists.
But Indra Jai Singh, if I may quote from your column today before I take it back to Tavleen, this is what you say. You say name calling is not the solution, nor is intimidating the judiciary. Our judiciary has a tradition of putting prime ministers and chief ministers in their place when the occasion requires, and will do so again if need be. It is not an easy judiciary to humiliate or tame. This is a very grave accusation coming from you, Indira. You have been an officer, a law officer of the previous government. The question is, are you actually saying the PM was out to humiliate or tame the judiciary?
Barkha, look, nobody can go inside the mind of the PM. I'm concerned with his words, okay? I'm concerned with the language he uses. What he intended to say and what he said may be two different things. I'm not concerned with that. Now, coming back to the power of the judiciary, yes, don't forget, it's the same judiciary within living memory. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the late Mrs. Gandhi, was not allowed to vote although she was Prime Minister of the country. She was put in her place by the judiciary at a given point of time. The Supreme Court of India has dealt very recently with Jai Lalita's case. I don't want to go into the details because the case is still pending. The Supreme Court of India has cancelled licenses. Now, Tavleen has a problem with the cancellation of licenses. Well, there's a procedure prescribed by law. You can go back to the court. You can file your review petitions. Indeed, you can even pass legislation validating those contracts, okay? What I'm saying is there's always a legitimate way of dealing with grievances. You do not deal with a grievance by name calling. And you know, by calling people like me or others five-star activists, let me tell you, we are not going to disappear from the face of this earth.
Why do you think he meant you? You've included yourself in it. Why do you think he meant you? You've taken it personally,
well,
haven't you?
I mean, okay, Barkha, let me tell you, I've had a long history of working in the Supreme Court of India. I consider it an institution to which I have devoted the better part of my life. And it's no secret that I have taken up cases like those of the pavement dwellers, those of the hawkers, those of women's rights, and so on and so forth. So I recently argued Priya Pillai's case. So I'm not saying he referred to me. Please don't get me wrong. He referred to a whole class of us.
Sure, I was joking.
You know, we were all brushed by the same paintbrush.
Okay, now I want to bring back Tavleen. Tavleen, you said that you do not, you don't have much fondness for the left wing, as it were. Now, that's fine. But the left of centre has a right to exist. This is a democracy. There are checks and balances and a divergence of views. And, even when you look at what happened with Greenpeace, the court finally upheld the right of Priya Pillai to travel. But today you have the Home Ministry shutting down the foreign accounts of Greenpeace. Now, I'm not personally a fan of Greenpeace's approach or tactics or maybe even politics. But Tavleen, we are a democracy. Doesn't Greenpeace or the left of centre also have a right to exist without being dubbed five-star activists by no less than the Prime Minister?
I'm amazed at your question. The left wing has controlled the Indian intellectual public space for 67 years. There are very few rightists who would admit to being rightists. What I was talking about is that, for instance, environment, we won't take names, but there are environmental
why don't you take
NGOs,
names? Why,
not
when have you become hesitant to take names, Tavleen? You said twice now, I won't take names.
All right, okay. Medha Patkar, Sunita Narayan, Greenpeace. Why have they not concentrated on really helping the environment improve by, talking about the filth of our rivers, the horrible conditions in which Indians live? Why is it always some big project that they stop, and that sometimes they end up stopping it to the detriment of the poorest citizens of India? I think of Vedanta as a real example. Orissa today would have been, or could have been, the aluminium producing center of the world had Vedanta not been stopped by, what are they called? Five-star, whatever they are, activists. And I call them five-star because I've seen them on flights. They travel first class and they have to stay in the best salons. And some of them, when they arrive, they go straight to the beauty parlor to have their hair done.
But what's
so they
wrong
are
with
five-star activists.
What's wrong with 5-star? What's wrong with having your hair done?
No, I'm
Does
pretty
it take away our rights to have a political position?
I'm only,
What's
I'm
wrong
only
with
using it because the Prime Minister did. Secondly, I want to say that the Prime Minister's speech was all about improving the justice system. There was just one little paragraph. I've read the whole thing in Hindi just before I came here.
Okay.
And it's about making the judiciary perfect and not just powerful. It's a very powerful judiciary, you know, which the only time it was actually cowed down was by Indra Gandhi during the emergency. Yeah, when the Supreme Court ruled that Indians had no fundamental rights at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, judges have also not such a good record. But the fact is that, you know, the left wing has got a very, very strong influence on the judiciary, and we've seen it time and time again, case after case.
Okay. Indra Jai Singh, is that a fair question that in a sense the left has had a stranglehold? It's had a stranglehold on the media, we're often told, a stranglehold on how judges think, that in some ways this is the right of centre asserting a corrective application, as it were, to our public discourse to prevent it from being too lopsided. So when you talk, Indra, about contrarian views, you also have to be able to accept the right of centre as a view contrarian to that of yours without judging it, without calling it immoral, unethical, you know, ominous, without vilifying it.
Look, Barkha, I would tend to agree with you, in fact, because I do think that every point of view needs to be ventilated. What I disagree with is to polarize the debate as us versus them. You know, and this is what I resented about the Prime Minister's speech. He presented it as us versus them, okay, and it's just not done. You know, even with your right-wing agenda or your neoliberal agenda, you still have to think of a social welfare safety net.
Yeah.
I mean, the best of right-wing economists will tell you that right-wing politics does not work unless you think about the vast majority of the people of this country, and how are you going to draw them into the mainstream? So whether you're right or left of the political spectrum, you still need to carry the country with you. And that was my problem with his speech, you know. I just didn't understand where was the need for the hostility.
Why did you see it as intimidatory vis-a-vis the judiciary? You made the point about activists in the left of centre, but you're actually taking it further and saying he was trying to humiliate, tame, intimidate the judiciary. That is your gravest charge, Indra.
Okay. Okay, see, Barkha, I mean, Tavleen brought up very interesting references to the late Mrs. Gandhi when she said Mrs. Gandhi was trying to get a committed judiciary. You know, the irony of the situation is I think the Prime Minister is doing nothing different compared to that. It's only that the kind of commitment he wants is to a different kind of politics. So what I'm trying to say is we have to reject this idea of a committed judiciary and just let the judiciary work as a judiciary.
So you're saying Narendra Modi is the new Indira Gandhi. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say.
I'm not saying any such thing. But I'm saying that when you're talking to judges, you cannot tell them what politics they should do.
Okay.
You know, you have to let them do their job. You know, and let me tell you, Barkha, what did the Supreme Court do? They rejected the curriculum petition, which was brought by quote-unquote five-star activists or five-star lawyers. It was thrown out. They said, no, the country has decided to go in for nuclear energy, so be it. So if only Tavleen did her homework, she would realize that many of the petitions that the so-called left wing have brought to court have been rejected.
Let's bring Tavleen in. Tavleen, go ahead. Let Tavleen respond to some of the points you've raised.
What is the complaint? I mean, what is the complaint? Today you have, on environmental issues, we are talking about one of the most polluted cities in the world.
Yes.
And you have judges saying this will not be acceptable. Is she complaining about that? Is there anything left-wing about it? Is Sunita Narayan wrong in bringing these issues to court? So I just don't get it, you know.
Tavleen.
Yes.
Tavleen, go ahead.
You see, this is, I mean, this really is, it's not the polarization that's by rightists like me, it's by leftists like Indra Jai Singh. If the justice system improves, which is what the Prime Minister's speech was fundamentally about, the biggest gainers are the poorest citizens of this country. When a Sunita Narayan talks about arsenic in Coca-Cola without pointing out that the drinking water that 99% of Indians get is undrinkable. Why don't you think there's something wrong with that? And it's not us versus them. It is two different ways to actually get to the same point, which is to bring prosperity to the poorest citizens of India. The left have had a full chance and failed.
Tavleen, how do you respond to Indra Jai Singh's criticism that you cannot tell judges what political ideology they should be shaped by?
I don't think he was. I don't think there's nothing in that speech at any stage. She's obviously not read the speech. Talk about not doing homework, Ms. Jai Singh. Get on with yours. Because if you read the speech, there is at no stage, any point.
I've read it. It's available on the official website. He
says you are the
speech is available on the official website.
Yeah, sure. He says you have
even
the power of the divine.
Sometimes are guided by the Prime Minister.
Well, that's, I don't know which country you live in, but I haven't seen that happen.
I've read the speech. It's up on the official
website.
Have
you read it in English? Read it in Hindi, Ms. Jai Singh.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, last comments from both of you. Tavleen, first to you, then Indra. Five-star activists pitching it as us and them is her critique. How do you respond to that, Tavleen?
Well, I think five-star activists really need a talking to. At any chance that anyone gets to give it to them, good.
Indra?
Well, I'd say it's very ironic when the Prime Minister's cabinet is full of money bags who are seen in five-star hotels all the time. We've just had a classic case of conflict of interest over BDs. I don't know what she's talking about, frankly.
But when it comes to wealthy members in politics, I think no party is immune to that. Is wealth the issue?
Sure, so why is she pointing fingers to five-star activists?
Tavleen, quick response?
Well, when you make personal comments about me, I will make them about you.
Can the Prime Minister not put his own household in order first before he starts pointing fingers at us?
Okay, quick word, Tavleen, then I've got to
Why are you guys so sensitive? Why do you have such thin skins? You point fingers at everybody all the time, very loudly, and shout at them.
Tavleen, I'm not sensitive about every...
You have to be able to take it.
I'm neither sensitive nor apologetic about my lifestyle. I am who I am.
Tavleen, 10 seconds.
That's clear.
We leave it there. Indra Jai Singh, Tavleen Singh, the Prime Minister has provoked a debate, much to think about, but that's it on the program tonight, I'm afraid. Very thankful that we were able to have a civilized debate, because I think that underlines the fact that in this country, there is space for the left, right, the centre, and whatever else you want to call it. Thanks for watching. The buck stops here. Good night from all of us.